Hey everybody, welcome to episode 4. I know you're probably like, wait a minute, she doesn't normally do this. Listen, the podcast world, it's a real thing. Things are always happening. We had a little technical difficulty with a portion of the video, and I wanted to give you all a heads up. So for about the first 7 minutes of the video, of the podcast episode, you will not see me. You will hear my voice, you will see Bill and Penni Heritage, and you will hear them as well. But a portion of the video became corrupted and we just weren't able to get it back. And it's only impacting my camera. So my apologies, keep listening, keep watching. And at about minute 7, you'll start seeing my video again. Again, you'll be able to hear everything. I'm sorry, we're learning and things happen, right? If you know me well, you know that I'm always striving for perfection. So this is under my skin a little bit right now, but it's nothing I can do about it, right? Except move forward. And I appreciate the patience. I hope you've enjoyed the first 3 episodes. And I hope that you enjoyed episode 4 with Bill and Penni as much as I enjoyed the time with them. So thanks so much for the support. I also just sidebar want to thank my 71 subscribers. Like, big deal, y'all. But enjoy episode 4. Welcome to the world of William Heritage Winery. I'll see you all soon. And don't forget, never wine alone. Welcome to Portia's Place, where you'll never wine alone. They say sometimes that your dreams can't come true, but today is definitely a dream come true for me. I am welcoming Bill and Penni Heritage, owners and proprietors of William Heritage Winery. Welcome to Portia's Place.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. For those of you that do not know, William Heritage Winery is the 2-time New Jersey Winery of the Year, awarded this by the Garden State Wine Growers Association that William Heritage Winery is a member of. They are a 5th generation owned and operated estate vineyard and winery located in Mullica Hill, New Jersey, the heart of the outer coastal plain. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means later on. 6 generations have actually farmed this 150-acre estate since 1853. Let that sink in a little bit, okay? It's just so wonderful having them here. The property was originally peach and apple orchard. So it's exciting. We're going to hear kind of how they transitioned over into wine. I will also tell you that in addition to being the New Jersey Winery of the Year twice, they have received multiple 90-plus point ratings and awards from James Suckling, Robert Parker's Wine Advocate, and most recently a 93-point rating from Decanter for their BDX Blanc. They are one of 6 wineries that are members of the Winemakers Co-op, which is dedicated to driving the fine wine movement in the Garden State. And finally, they are a certified sustainable winery. So lots of exciting things going on at William Heritage Winery. And we're just going to get started. I will let you know, for those that have been following and visiting Portia's Place with us, we typically have Viola's Vino. It's a special segment during the episode where we talk about wine. We're going to do things a little differently because because I have owners, I have such special guests here today. We're going to be drinking this wine, tasting throughout the episode. You'll hear a little bit about the wine. I definitely want Bill and Penny to share things that they think are interesting about this wine. So I will tell you during this episode, our Viola's Vino is going to be the William Heritage Winery Vintage Brut. It's the 2020 Vintage Brut. It retails for $46. And I will tell you this, $46, when you taste this, is nothing. You're probably spending over $100 a bottle for something that is nowhere near as good as this. It is a true Brut Nature, which means that once they finished the riddling and the disgorgement, nothing else was added to this. So with no additional sugar, it means that the grapes can basically freely express themselves without the additional sugar. And then one more thing I will add that I think makes this so very special is that this Brut actually contains some fruit from the very first Chardonnay planting from the year 2000. So listen, special. We'll talk more about it during the episode, but let's get started. I want you to meet these very special people. If I have time, I'm going to tell a little story about my very first visit to William Heritage Winery, but we'll get to that later because I want them to do all the talking. I know you probably won't ever hear me say that again, but I want someone else to really do the talking. So let's get started. And I definitely like to know, so as I mentioned in the introduction, the farm was peach and apple orchards. So what made you decide to grow grapes?
Well, for the first thing, we actually met on the farm.
Okay.
So when we were in high school, after school, we all had a job. So we had to go, and Penny and her friend came and wanted to work on the farm. So I said, okay, what can you do? I said, whatever you got to do. So we had peaches at that point, and I took them into the peach orchard and I gave them the rustiest pair of pruners, loppers I could find, and then had them cut a branch that was about 3 inches around, and they tried. So I said,
yeah, we were like,
I said, you're hired. So that was kind of the whole start to the whole adventure that we we're living to this day. But no, what the real story was when we've been in the farming business. We grew up on the farm. We hung out on the farm, and my dad wanted to retire. And at that point, we were living on the farm, and we had jobs off the farm. Penny was a postal carrier, or a route carrier. I was working for a peach packing and marketing group in the area. So we decided Penny decided that she would leave her job and run the farm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we started with peaches and apples, and we did it. Of course, I did it in the morning before I left, and she did it during the day. And then when I got home, we did some more together, in the orchards and in the farming part. But we were packing peaches and sending them to a Philadelphia terminal fruit market in Philadelphia. Sometimes you had to make 2 trips a night. We were all in.
Wow.
But after we got done those first couple of years, there wasn't much black ink to see. There was still fairly red.
Wow.
So we had to try to rediscover ourselves. So looked into blueberries. Blueberries are a natural fruit for New Jersey. It fits the soil profile, although in southwest New Jersey, the soil profile isn't quite the same as it is in Atlantic County and Ocean County and those areas where there's a lot of sand and all. So we didn't do that, but we did go to a farm convention, and we attended a seminar. So it was the last day of the last session. We decided to attend this class on growing wine grapes in New Jersey, and so we said, why not? Let's go. We have an hour. So it was myself, Penny, and our friend Jim Stewart.
Stu.
Yeah. And he's been with us since the beginning. Still with us today.
Yes.
And as we're going around there asking the people that are in the meeting, what do you do now? And we said, we grow peaches and apples. And the guy that was putting the meeting on said, well, that's perfect. And I said, why is that perfect? And they said, well, it's what Bordeaux has an orchard next to their vineyards and all their chateaus. It's just a common thing. And I was like, I don't know about that. But anyway, so riding home, and we decided, sitting in a truck riding home, we're going to order enough vines for 2 acres. 1 acre would be Chardonnay, and the other acre would be Cab Franc.
Okay.
And the reason for that was the only issue that we might have in New Jersey is the cold, freezing in the wintertime, not just in the spring or in the fall, but the winter. Grapevines, they don't survive even dormant below 0. But the Chardonnay and the Cab Franc are like 10 below. They're one of the hardier of all the vinifera varieties. So we planted them. Within a year, they were starting to grow, and we already had the equipment, and we had the labor, and boy, and they just kept growing. And the second year, it was time to pick them. And I said, "All right, let's go pick the grapes." And Penny's like, "Well, why are we going to pick them now?" I said, "Well, they're ready." And she said, "We got to sell them." She says, "We're going to make wine from those grapes." And I said, "Wine?" I said, I'm a beer drinker. I'm not a wine drinker."
And I got so sad. We had been babying them that whole first year, and they grew, and I was like, I think we can do it. Let's just make the wine, because I didn't want to give them to anybody else.
You just wanted to keep them. I get it. They were your babies.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we had no wine making knowledge.
We had to get a license first. There's 2 licenses in New Jersey. There's a farm license and a plenary license, and there's not much dollar difference for the license between the two. But in reality, there's a big difference. In a farm license, after 5 years, you can only produce wine from the grapes from your property, your estate.
Okay.
But a plenary license, you can buy from other states, from wherever. And from an insurance perspective, I felt that it was a better guarantee in case we did have a freeze and we needed to produce wine. We could still buy fruit from other regions and still produce fruit to have in our tasting room.
Gotcha.
So that's why we went with the plenary.
That makes sense.
But
Wow.
Penny's so much better at filling out forms, paperwork, than Bill is. So she agreed. So I'm going to let her take the story from here.
Well, I just thankfully the ABC gave us a temporary permit to harvest and crush and ferment.
Wow. Nice.
That was right around 9/11. So they were busy. So they gave us the temporary to do that until we were producing. And then once we actually produced a product, we told them, and then
And just to clarify, technically, our first planting was 1999.
So 1999, Cab Franc and Chardonnay planting.
right. And then the Chardonnay the first vintage was 2001.
2001, 2 years later.
Right. So that's what we were going to put on the label, right?
Now, listen, I got to ask you this. You've got these bottles of Chardonnay, and you're going to open one. You're going to actually taste this wine. What were your emotions like when it was time to open that bottle, that first bottle to taste?
I think it kind of happened before that, because the whole bottling thing was monotonous. We had everything set up in the basement, and we had to get all of our family in there to help us, and we did it all like from a turn, each bottle, and laid them all on the floor.
From the
and
barrel, yeah.
Somebody
Wow.
had to cork them and everything.
Wow.
But I will say,
500 bottles was the first.
500 bottles.
2 barrels.
Family in the basement, 2 barrels, 500 bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Local radio station gets wind that we're going to have wine available in Gloucester County. First bonded winery ever in Gloucester County, New Jersey.
In a dry township.
Dry township.
Wow, that's amazing.
So we had to go to our local township committee, and Penny made a bunch of phone calls, and we filled the room with farmers that night. And
It saved us.
Saved us, yeah. They really did. Let us do it. Basically, the committee had to agree. The mayor had to sign off, and the chief of police that it was okay. And then we actually got their license approved, so we could actually sell wine.
Sell wine.
Right. So once the radio station got a hold of it, the phone started ringing. So we had to put a price on it.
Right.
What price? What do you sell? $21.50 sound like a great number. And we had to limit it to 2 bottles per person, and they completely sold out.
And I was making this list from the farm market.
Yeah.
So my brother-in-law went down to Cowtown.
Has a
Like
flea
a-
market.
Yes,
Flea
they
market.
do. I've been to Cowtown many times.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
he came
yes.
back with this, I think it was a shoe rack.
Okay.
But it was straight up and down, and all the
Wood?
bottles would fit in there just perfectly.
Made out of wood,
Yeah,
made
it
out of
was,
metal. It was
wow.
perfect.
that was our first wine rack for the Chardonnay. And thinking about back now, it's it's at a farm market. It's outside. It's not like conditioned and all that. And we had the list. People coming to pick up these
their
bottles.
2 bottles
Yeah.
because that's what they were able to get, and $21.50.
And I left out the fact that what do you put on the label? We're all wine label, like what's on the label?
Right.
That was probably one of the
The hardest.
hardest things for us to do was what is our relation? What's our brand? What is it? So we found there was an old train track behind the tasting room produce stand, and there was a station there. It was called Heritage Station,
Yes.
and it was run by the Murphy brothers back in the day. And we actually found a picture. My uncle was a collector, and he had a picture of the Murphy brothers, and we transferred that picture onto the label. And my cousin designed the logo, Amy,
Yes.
and we did it. That's what we did for the beginning, and it really it felt like it was still a sense of place. Wine is it's grown all over the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what's our identity in New Jersey, right? So okay, here's Heritage. Here's Heritage Station. Was it with a retract with all the commodities that were grown in our area were taken on that track into the city to be sold back in the 30s and 40s. That was the thing. So what better? So we did that for quite a while.
It was a great concept. I bought one of those bottles in the wine club cabinet, I think last year, that had that old station label. I hadn't seen it in a lot of years, but it's great. And even the concept, thinking about that, that was a really great brand for your first label.
First coming out.
That's pretty amazing. And for that first wine, Bill, Penni, were you all the actual wine makers for that?
We were, but we had a friend that
Of a
Bill
friend.
worked with. A friend of a friend.
A friend of a friend of a friend, yes.
And he made wine at home.
Uh-huh.
And his friend said, "I want you to meet him." I said, "Okay." So he comes over and he brings the biggest wine glass I had ever seen, and with his wines, and I was just like, "You're it," because that was the best experience. I mean, it was wine he had made, and he would come over after work and help us, put some general things put together, and he.
His name is Mike Rogers. We should mention his name.
All right. Hey, Mike Rogers.
Yeah. And he was gave us, he had 2 kids at home. He lived in Springfield, PA, and he just gave us
his passion,
his time. And we were working till, because we were doing all this after a full day of work.
Work,
Yeah.
There's a saying in the wine business: never quit your real job. When you're going to make wine,
No, absolutely.
keep making wine, but don't ever quit your real job.
Wow.
And there's something to that.
Absolutely. I want to say this because I just thought about this as you were talking. So you have these first vines. You've got the Chardonnay. You've got the Cab Franc. You have 500 bottles of the Chardonnay.
Yep.
You sell all of that, correct?
Right. Oh yeah.
So then what are you thinking after
Within
that?
the first few months.
Within the first few months, 500 bottles gone.
We're making the wine.
So now you're making wine.
You're making wine. Every year we're making wine.
Had you gotten to the point yet where you were thinking, hey, this might really be what we do?
Yes, but
we
we weren't,
had a
we weren't
mishap.
convinced.
Okay.
Well, we had a mishap too, yeah.
We had a mishap.
Okay.
So this was our first year of picking.
Yes.
So Bill sent the men out to pick the Chardonnay.
Okay.
But I was working in the cellar because I'm getting the cellar ready. Classic thing. You go pick the grapes. I'll get the cellar ready, and then.
And he's still working
And
off
he's
the
still
farm.
working, yes.
Yeah. So the men picked all the Chardonnay, but they just kept picking and picking and picking, and they picked all the Cabernet Franc too. Which
they weren't supposed to
They
do.
shouldn't have picked that for another month.
Oh my.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Bill was just beside himself. He couldn't function, and
I'm sure.
He was actually leaving for Montana. He said, we're just going to throw them away. We're not making that wine. Nope, we're not going to put that out as our first wine. It didn't get to maturity and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, but there's nothing wrong with the grapes. They're so beautiful, you know.
They're my babies. I said, babies, we can't just throw the Cab Franc away. We can't.
So he was hunting in Montana every year for a week or so then. And when he left for Montana, Stu and Oscar and I made the wine.
Okay, so you all make this wine.
Mm-hmm. And we just did it because I'm not throwing them away.
No,
and,
right.
You know, all that stuff. So, I mean, a very long story short, of course, the red wine's not ready in the first year. That's why we only had Chardonnay.
Right.
So we, I don't think we barreled it.
No,
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I think it was in a stainless steel tank, and we just let it age for another year. And we were tasting it all along, and we were like, actually, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
You know?
It was bright. It was fresh.
I understand.
Yeah.
Sidebar, were you surprised when you got back from Montana and they had made this wine?
Yeah. What was I going to do then? It was already done.
It was already done.
Right.
He definitely had a chip on his shoulder. He was like, whatever, we'll probably, whatever. We'll probably end up dumping it anyway. And, yeah.
Oh my. I can also, I know Oscar, you all, and I can absolutely see his face when you were like, Oscar, let's just make this wine. Yeah, let's do it.
Right.
Well, he said, you know the deal. I'll go get a case of beer, order some pizza, and we'll hang out tonight, and we'll crush these grapes, and we'll ferment them and all that. And they were like,
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh my goodness. All right.
Because they're not married yet or have kids or anything yet.
Right. So what do they have to do? Was he still drinking Miller High Life then?
Yeah.
Yep.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, listen. So Cab Franc, you keep tasting it. You're tasting it. Bottle this Cab Franc.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Have you decided to plant more grapes at this point?
Well, we took an attitude of 2 acres a year.
Okay.
Because at that point, it costed $10,000 an acre to plant an acre of grapes.
Okay.
Between the plants, the stakes, the wire.
The irrigation too.
Irrigation at that point, yeah. So we had a plan. Every year we're going to plant 2 more acres and build it and just see if it continues to grow. Because, it looks good. It went fast. But, we didn't have a lot of dispensable income at that point. I mean, we were still farming peaches and apples, trying to pay the bills, all the land taxes, everything that goes with farming. And still, we had 3 kids.
How old were the boys then around this time?
Well, Eric was 8.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, and he's the youngest.
And
so they were like 12, 10, and 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Were they helping you all too? Were there things that you had them doing on the farm too to help?
So they, obviously when they weren't in school,
yes,
they would just travel around with me and we would pick up produce, and because we had the farm market was our bread and butter then, and the farm market was busy. We had a good location. We were on 322 but we only grew tree fruit, so we had to pick up cantaloupes and corn and tomatoes and everything to make it a full farm market. And we were picking up and back then I tell everybody there were no car seats and stuff. They were like standing up in the front of the pickup truck, and
I remember
stop and get a Happy Meal, and back to the farm market.
Back to the farm market. Wow. Mm-hmm. So at what point, I'm going to ask you this, when did you know, like what was your aha moment when you said, we're going to be all in on winemaking and this is it. We can be successful with this.
Well, when we sold all that first Chardonnay,
you were really like,
really jazzed.
And then it kind of started to kick in that we might have a product that's only going to get better in the bottle, and we don't have to run the Philly every single night with a truckload of peaches and not know what they're going to give us for them.
Right.
So, I mean, sometimes we would get $5 a box, and we delivered our produce to Philly with no
top quality
idea of what we were going to get back.
Wow.
Just couldn't continue like that.
No. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So our oldest son went to school for marketing at Rutgers, New Brunswick, and when he came home, then he he needed a project.
Yes.
Yeah. So he wanted to take on the wine label branding project.
Yes.
And that's when Heritage Station went from Heritage Station to Heritage Station and Jersey. Because people were confused, because by that point we had started to make some fruit wines. Because we discovered that there was a sweet palate and a dry palate. And
well, actually, we discovered it from a bucket of sugar plums that was sitting in the packing house. Then it wasn't a winery. Then it was still a packing house.
Okay.
Somebody had left a bucket of sugar plums from us packing them.
Coles.
And you're not supposed to do that because of sour flies and all that stuff. They just sat there and sat there. And I look at the bucket, and the whole bucket is fermenting.
Wow.
Yeah, and it turns out that sugar plums actually have yeast on the skin and all that. So that's when we decided we were going to ferment some peaches. So that's kind of how the fruit wine thing started.
The Jersey wine started.
Jersey wine.
It's interesting. I'm going to say this to you all, and I often say this when when I'm at the winery, that there are a lot of wineries that make really good drier wine. There's a lot of wineries then that can make pretty good sweeter wines. But I have never come across a winery that does both so well. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's one of the great things about William Heritage Winery, that no matter the palate, no matter who you're with, you're going to find something that you love there. I think it's such a gift, to be able to do that. I don't have to feel like, oh, I can't bring this friend with me or this friend with me, or, oh, my husband's going to be bored out of his mind because he doesn't want to drink the Cab Franc that I want to drink. Sure. He likes something a little sweeter, or I can't bring my mom because she's not going to be interested. Right. And for people that don't realize that you can have both, I feel like you're just amazing at both. And I love seeing people and couples and friends who you've got 3 different kinds of wine on the table. Someone may like something sweet. Someone may like, maybe an off dry. And then you've got someone that totally wants the driest wine that they can find. That's what they want to drink. And everyone's at the table, and they're all William Heritage or your Jersey wines. And I think that's great. I never knew that sugar plum story. How interesting is that?
Yeah.
Wow. I cut you off though.
No,
so you've got both. Rich is there. You've got both labels now. So you've got the Jersey wines. You've got your Heritage wines at that point, and you're doing both.
I think right before Rich came, we had decided to build the tasting room, which was probably...
It was 2003.
When we started it, yeah.
Yes.
It was probably one of the scariest things we ever did, because it was going to be like, I don't know, $130,000 or something. We were just like,
it's like a mortgage out.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
But we had to go to the Finger Lakes of New York to figure out what we needed. Because we didn't know. Who knew we were going to need bathrooms, and we're going to need a tasting bar, and we're going to need this, and we're going to need that. And
we didn't have like designers and stuff like that. And we approached everything as farmers, like Rich, our son Rich today would be like, yeah, you got to have a business plan. You got to have, this, that, and the other thing. And we were flying by the seat of our pants, to be honest.
But it got us off the ground, right?
Yes.
And it put us on the map, and the people that were curious stopped.
Yes.
And Rich took care of social media, which he used to promote the business. Until this day, he's a big proponent of that. He's still... Your
social media is great. The reels, everything is so good. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you all or not, but it had to be over 15 years ago. I was on my way to my uncle's house. My dad's brother, Wanda's dad, he lived in Williamstown, New Jersey. I was on my way to visit him. I took 322 to go see him. And there was a sign out front that said free wine tasting.
Oh, yeah.
That's how long ago it's been. Because, disclaimer, there's no free wine tasting at William Heritage Winery unless you're a member. We'll talk about that later. But I I almost wrecked my car. Like the rocks are flying out behind the tires because I'm turning into this parking lot. And I was like, free wine tasting? We're stopping.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. We go inside. The bar that was there was in the back towards where the wine club cabinet is. It was a beautiful bar, by the way, but it was small. You couldn't even see the bar. People were everywhere. That day, Rich was pouring wine, and at that time, all I drank were sweet wines. And I have to tell you, I thought I must have been in heaven to see all of these Jersey wines, and everything that I tasted was good. Like I was struggling. I was like, I love all of these. I got a passport because now that I know they have wine in New Jersey, I'm going to go visit all the wineries and get passport stamps, and I'm going to win this trip. I never left you all.
Yeah.
Like, it was like I got the stamp there.
About that.
It's amazing.
And I just never left. And I, of course, back when there would be other things going on the wine trails. You could do the trolley tours. You could do all sorts of things. I would go to other places, but I never left. I think maybe I got 2 more stamps in that passport, and that was it. Like it was, and I remember leaving. I bought wine. I called my uncle from there. I said, Uncle Horace, I discovered this winery. It's amazing. And he was like, what kind of wine do they have? And I told him, bring me a bottle of, bring me that blueberry. Okay, I will. And so I got a bottle of that Jersey Blue for him. And I went to his house and we were drinking wine, sitting around his pool. And I never left. It was like I had found this special place. And
they were $8.50 then?
Oh yeah, listen, that was the other thing. They were like $8.50, and that was with tax. I wasn't even upset about paying tax coming from Delaware, right? But I just remember I couldn't believe it. But then the other good thing was I trusted what you were doing there. And so my friend that was with me, she didn't really like sweet wines. And I was like, well, if these wines are this good, maybe I should try some of these others. Maybe they'll be okay too. Because I had no experience with wine. I grew up, my parents didn't drink. I just didn't know anything about wine. But I felt like you knew what you were doing. And so I trusted you and would try whatever it was. I remember like dry rosé. I remember the painted horse with the horse on the label. Like I remember those wines, but I remember saying, I'm going to take a chance because they know what they're doing here. And I trust them. Like these are the things that I really thought. And as a customer and everything that I was everything for me? No. But there were things, and I was discovering that, hey, I like different kinds of wine. Sure. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can just continue to develop and grow as a wine lover. And I will say this too, that first tasting room, the feeling there was a feeling of warmth. It was good energy. I remember your dad being there. I remember the baked goods. Yeah. I had a lot of diabetics in my family, so I would get those sugar-free pies for them. Like I can remember all of those. I still have coasters that I bought. Like you all had great merch then too. And I understand it's about the wine, but y'all had some great merch then. But at the same time, what you were doing there, I always felt comfortable. I never felt out of place. I always just felt like I was at this really cool place and it's just, I'm having a good time here. I'm drinking what I consider to really be great wine. And I'm meeting other people. I got to tell you, for 2 people that I believe were learning as you were going along, for sure. From the outside looking in, I couldn't tell. It just seemed like you had kind of mastered this thing. I had no idea. That is how I felt. And again, it's I never left because the vibe was so good there. But the wine was even better. Like I dare say this, and I'm not being funny when I say this. You've probably heard me say this before. It's almost magical.
Yeah.
I feel, and I still feel that way to this day. When I turn into that parking lot, I just never know what magic could happen. But that just goes back, because what you're telling me and what you did, first of all, I can't even imagine taking a chance like that, and what you've done. And I also think you all being willing to learn is another thing too. Like, not, we know what we're doing and we don't need help and we can figure this out on our own. But having people around you that were all in with you too, which speaks to who you are. To have people behind you and to be right there with you. And Bill's out hunting in Montana, but Penny's like, no, let's make this wine. Yeah, let's do it. Or having someone show up and come from Springfield to teach you all. I think that it speaks to who you are as individuals and who your family is. And I know your sons, and for how you have raised them, it's special. Your family's special, and what you're doing there, it's special from the very beginning, and it's still special.
Well, we have the work hard, play hard motto. Right?
Well, that's a good motto, right?
That's right, but work hard always comes first.
That's right. That's right. I love that. I love that.
You can tell we were always learning, because, I mean, nobody in their right mind would have 20-some varietals in the ground at this point, because nobody could really tell us what we could and couldn't grow.
Right.
So we were basically teaching ourselves. So the growing part, we're good at. That's been a lifelong thing. You know, we just weren't familiar with let's try a small block of Sauvignon Blanc or Petit Verdot, or some, the other growers are like, what are you doing? But,
and many times we were told not to plant this or that. Don't plant this, don't plant that, because it doesn't grow here. It doesn't do that. But looking at what that variety grew like in other parts of the world, and in a similar situation, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
So then we became sort of the teachers.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Had success with the varieties we put in. I mean, Grenache in New Jersey, right?
Oh my God, it's my favorite.
And somebody said to me one time, a very important person said to me, you're going to make a great rosé. I said, well, what's wrong with that?
Right.
Because rosé is a great rosé.
Yes.
Rosé is one of the hottest things
Yes.
And it's so I just feel that sometimes you just have to go out and you got to do it, even though that there's people, you got to try it. You got to put yourself out there, not to the point where you're going to hurt yourself, but just try something and see if it does take off, and figure out where you fit in, right?
Yes.
Okay, where do you fit in based on other parts? I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. Right. I mean, somebody already did that.
Yes.
I just want to give it a sense of place from our area.
Yes.
Our soils, our terroir, our topography, all those things. What can we do? Maybe it wouldn't be successful, maybe not, but it turned out that it has been very successful. So.
Well, speaking of learning too, a winemaker was not the first professional that we hired. The first professional we hired out of sheer need to know was a sanitization consultant.
Turned out to be that. I mean, for us, we've hired multiple consultants along our journey, along our time. But the first one he showed us how to sanitize the equipment so that when we bottled the wine, there wasn't any bad bugs, microbes in the
And we've
wines.
really never had that happen as far as like a bad wine that we bottled that we
Right.
But we were investing in barrels, and we're a brand new winery, and we've been hearing about how the barrels could go bad if you didn't sanitize them, So sanitizing was the very first thing we learned, and it turned out to be, extremely important.
Absolutely.
In California, one of their successes where they are at is that the university there, UC Davis, taught the wine growers how to make solid, basic good wine. And I think once you learn that, then you can take it from there and go wherever you want. But the first thing is to make a good, solid wine, so then you can control the or add your flavor, your twist to whatever wine you're going to make. So I really think that some Jersey wineries maybe could use that to help here. So hopefully someday they'll do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start with it. Make that good
Make that
wine.
good basic.
Make that good basic.
Good base.
And then
right?
try other things.
Correct. Do your blending.
Yes.
Do your other. But the thing is to make sure the wine is clean and solid.
I like it. I think that's great advice. I heard you say this, Penny. You said I think 20 varieties, right? Is that what you have right now?
I mean, the honest truth is, Bill probably knows, but we have even Kevin, our winemaker, had us plant a couple of varieties. I don't even know how to pronounce them hardly, but we're still experimenting so much to this day. And if I had to guess, I would say we're in the 20 range of varietals.
20 plus.
And how many acres now?
70 acres are under vine.
70 acres.
65 is productive.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
But we call it a lot of spices in the spice cabinet. So
I like it.
Especially for blends,
Yes,
right?
yes. Oh, I love that. Wow. That's how you've grown from that very first planting. Let's get to the wine because we haven't tasted this wine at all.
No.
I mentioned at the beginning we are tasting a 2020 vintage Brut. And I'm going to let you all actually talk about this wine. We're moving a little bit. Oh yes, cheers to you both. I'm going to make my way. Sorry, Jeffrey, I'm probably all off camera. I'm sorry
It just
about
seems
that.
like the right thing to do,
It just
right?
seemed like the right thing to do. Talk to me a little bit about this wine. What makes it so special?
Well, I'll let Bill talk about the wine because he's much better versed in champagne than I am. But one of my favorite things about this sparkling is that it has tiny bubbles. And for some reason, I realized that instead of like really big bubbles in your nose and getting up your nose, and this has really tiny bubbles, and actually is one of my favorites that we've produced. But you can do the method
Well, can I start? Can I tell a quick story
I
first?
want you to, yes.
Okay, so Penny and I were big Pinot Noir still wine fans. So, of course, if what you like is what you want to grow, so you can grow it and drink it and all that. So we put the Pinot Noir was the variety, and we put that in, and we would get ready for it to mature, to come to the right sugars and right acids, and all of a sudden the grape would collapse. Simply collapse. And we had varieties and the clones that were supposed to make the best Pinot Noir you can make. And we went through this about 3 or 4 years. And we decided we were going to pull them out. Well, the winemaker at that point was Sean Caminos.
Yes.
And he said, why pull them out? Let's make some champagne or sparkling wine. I was like, okay, how do I do that? Because I'm a grower, I'm not the winemaker. He says, let's just get some. We have Chardonnay already. We have Pinot Noir, and that fruit is picked almost 2 to 3 weeks before the still crop is picked. Okay. And then Penny and I had gone to California, and we'd been to some champagne houses, and at that point it hit me. I didn't realize they were picking early, way early, and we were basically ready for the season, but we didn't have a lot to do. So we had a window. So I said, why don't we do it? Let's pick the fruit, put it together. And we, at that point, we did the method champenois, which is where you actually take the juice and you ferment it twice, and you add the yeast, and you put it back into the bottle and it produces its bubbles in there. And you lay it down for 2 to 3 years. And we went through all that.
That's where I was shocked. I'm like, 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
So the capital investment for some of the equipment we needed wasn't really needed in the beginning.
Okay.
Because it was a test type situation, and so we did it, got through it, and we came out and we drank some of that sparkling, and it was absolutely wonderful. And we took it to other wineries and other shows where other wineries were, and everybody said, "Where did you get this?" And we said, "Well, we made it." So. That
3 years ago.
That was 3 years ago. That's how our sparkling actually started. And we got a couple really good accolades after that with some critics. And Parker was one of them, one of the first ones to give us a good accolade. So anyway, we just kept going. We love, sparkling was something that we had a hole in our lineup. We didn't have any sparkling.
Right.
We had dry whites, dry reds,
Yes.
sweet whites, sweet reds. We even had a dessert wine, a Chamberson late harvest. We had,
Yes.
but we didn't have any bubbles. So we felt, you know what? And that's it was a total accident. We had it there the whole time. We had some time. And we put it together, and then we spent a little money. You know, we bought some used equipment, and we bought some new equipment, but we kept it at a workable number, and so we were able to do a sparkling program, and now it's become one of our biggest well-known products.
People love sparkling, and customers come in, they want it, and it's funny. I feel like sparkling used to just be associated with celebrations. If it was a wedding
Correct.
or, some sort of graduate, just some special occasion. But now people want great sparkling wine, champagne all the time. Like,
Prosecco.
yes, like I just want to have it for brunch. Like
Correct.
it's Sunday, I'm coming in, I want to have a bottle. And I have to tell you, I've been there along this journey with you when it comes to adding sparkling to your portfolio. But I have to tell you, this vintage Brut, I think it's my favorite.
Me too.
I thought I had another favorite, but this I think is my favorite. It is so good. It is just so good. Bill, anything else? Talk about this wine a little bit.
So this wine in particular is from some of the fruit here is from the very first Chardonnay vineyard we planted in '99, and it just keeps going. It's just a great. It's a nice, sparkling didn't when wine got a new life in 2000, right? They were talking about your doctor was telling you to drink a glass of red wine before you went to bed. 60 Minutes said, hey, this is the thing. It's to do. It's healthy. Wine sales are going to outdo beer sales, which nobody knew about the microbrews coming through. That kind of changed things a little bit.
Gotcha.
But sparkling never came with the other wines, and all of a sudden now it's come up and it's right there with them, if not even more.
I agree.
But now we grow this wine. This is a fully 100% estate. It was set on its lees for 3 years. Gone through the process. Like you said, we don't add anything. There's no dosage here. It's after you disgorge, we level it, cork it, wire it, ready to go.
And it is definitely good.
Yes.
I mean, it's really good, and I think that it's so special. I'm enjoying this. When we tasted this before, the wine and chocolate pairing for February, what a way to kick that off.
Yeah.
I was like, how can it get better? And I feel like I use this phrase a lot, and I am a little biased when it comes to the winery, but I will tell you, I almost feel like every time I think it can't get better, it does. And that's how I felt about this vintage Brut. I was getting ready to taste it. I was like, okay, let's see. Every time I think that a new release can't possibly be better than the one before, it is. It really is.
I think our motto is to push a little bit.
Yes.
We're always pushing forward. If there's a better way, or we're not quite putting it right, we're going to keep pushing forward. We never sit on our laurels, is the word, right?
Right.
So we're trying to push forward. We're trying to increase. We're trying to put New Jersey on the map. Make sure New Jersey's in the conversation.
Yes.
When it's about wines, and whether it be sparkling, dry, still, sweet.
We try to listen to our winemaker too. Like Sean wanted to make those pet nats and piquettes and all that stuff, which, to be truthful, I had no idea what they were, but it was something that he really wanted to try. And I think sometimes you just got to let the winemaker run with what they want to do. And Kevin had started this sticky when he came along. I've never heard of anything called sticky, but he's been adding to this wine over the past 4 years. We're we're going to bottle our first 40 cases, I believe, this year. So, I mean, all that's exciting. And we're always up for, new stuff. Hence, like I said, the 20-some SKUs.
Yes.
It's a warehouse nightmare.
We haven't even talked about cider.
Look, we haven't even gotten to
we haven't got to
even
that.
talk
That's
about
a
this
whole
cider.
nother,
But listen, trust me, we're here for all of it.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you're excited and we're here for all of it. I do want to go back to something because we mentioned your boys being young. We mentioned Rich finishing and coming in and being in charge of marketing and the branding and all of that. But all three of your sons actually are a part of the winery now, are all working in this family business. What's that feel like for you all to have your sons right there with you and learning and doing this?
I think Penny should.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm just over the moon because we all, we live near each other and they all grew up on the farm. And of course, Richie came directly to the business from college. And then Brian went to architectural school. Bill's dad was very into architect drawings and all that. So I think that's Brian had a passion for that. Right. And then he worked in the architectural field for many years, and he just came back 2 years ago. We really needed someone in the production area, the bottling area, and I think he was just tired of sitting behind a desk. He has that farm in him.
It's in him,
Mm-hmm. And then Eric came directly from college also, our youngest, and I don't think he was quite sure what he wanted to do, so he started with me, but ultimately he ended up in the field. So he's in the vineyard with Bill now, and he's done extremely well. He manages all the men, and they look up to him, and he works with them, and so they're all in 3 areas of the farm where we really needed help. So we would have never been able to do all this anymore, just the 2 of us. So, in fact, I mean, I'm hoping in the next 5 years, we might have a little bit of a step back as far as...
I'm not going to cry on air. But no, I understand.
Yeah, but we all live there. We'll always be there.
Yeah.
Feels like we've been growing.
Yes.
I think there's a point where we're going to have to plateau at some point.
Yes.
And see whether we grow or whether we decline a little bit just to get a feel for where we're at.
Because we can't just keep
Continue.
doing more,
Right,
unless we maybe give up something. Like we gave up festivals.
Yes.
I think that was probably a really good move for us because they were just so much work and energy, and
especially at that time of the year.
Yeah.
When I was attending the festivals, I didn't know that.
I
was just having a good time, and I just thought it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so much work, and at that time of the year, which is such an important time of the year. But I think that while you don't have the festival, I think harvest seasons at Mullica Hill are just, it's beautiful. It's an opportunity to come any day and just enjoy.
Yes.
And I will also say it was great having other wineries at the festivals, but I always spend all my money on your wines anyway. So, I mean, I think about that. It was a great opportunity to taste other wines. But a lot of us that love coming are just, we're going to always come back to you. But I understand that. And I will say to you, it's so neat to me watching your sons in the business with you all. And, I have one son, he amazes me with things, but to have all 3 of your sons there together and picking up and carrying on and thinking of things and adding to the business in the way that they do, you must feel so proud. And I think that's, it's amazing. Some families don't even speak to each other sometimes, but to have your sons and their spouses there and they're pitching in and helping out when they can, we see that too.
Yeah.
And and watching your family grow as well. So I think that's really amazing. All right. Last thing I'm going to ask you all is, what do you want the legacy to be for William Heritage Winery?
I mean, for me, it's more of a family thing.
Yes.
I love the fact that all the boys not only live there and work there. It's very important for me that they keep very good open communication as to avoid any family discrepancies, which would probably for me be the worst thing. So just keep everybody in good communication and keep them together, and also bring the grandkids in. My granddaughter Olivia told my sister-in-law Sharon that she said, "Aunt Sharon, do you know how lucky I am?" And Sharon said, "Why?" She said, "Because I live on a farm." You know, and she was only 6 at the time, so you know, and we watched EJ out there on his little tractor. He's only 2, so and out there carrying chickens around. And just you know, the grandkids to grow up there and enjoy farming, because for us, you know, we need to make money, and we need to keep the grounds in the farming business so that we can maintain the grounds. Yes. So we're just stewards of the land. So if we can't continue to keep it alive, then we lose it. You know, so my biggest fear is to lose it, but my greatest destiny would be to hold it on, even if they have to move into another type of business. I mean, Peaches and Apples probably got us through into at least the 5th generation. Yes. And I always say this, maybe the wine business will get us another 5 generations. I don't know, but I hope so. So
from your lips to God's ears.
Yes.
Yes. Bill, anything you want to add?
Yeah, for me, I just think that we want to continue to farm. I mean, that farm's been in there for 5 generations, 6 generations now with our sons. Yes. We actually found out that our family from Europe, before they came over here, was actually farming grapes there, farming. So I know, right? So you're thinking to yourself, how do I put this all together, right? How does this all fit? So knowing those facts, we didn't know if one of our relatives there said, well, this is why you're doing it. It's starting to all make sense. So I think we're doing what we're meant to do. And to keep the farm going, it is the Garden State, yes. Right? The ground is made to do what we're doing with it. We're not trying to manipulate it or do something that it's not meant to do. And that's not a bad life. I mean, if you can get some return on your product that you're farming, it's a very satisfying, and there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of sweat, blood and tears that go into it. So I mean, it's an emotion. It's fulfilling.
And you're not going to run it unless you walk out that door every day.
Right.
That's half of it.
Yes.
Half of it is going out that back door and getting boots on the ground somewhere on that property, because there's always something to do. We could farm.
We tell the boys that all the time. What do you want me to do today? We want you to walk out the door.
Yep.
Walk out the door. The work will hit you right in the face.
If something there,
that's all you got to do.
Yes.
Somebody's going to be coming to the farm. Somebody's going to need you to do something for them. Somebody needs you to just be there and enjoy it. You know, I mean, obviously we can't work 24/7, but right. But we, you know, we all put a lot of time in, and we're proud of it. And like you said, I think our product hopefully shows that.
Yes.
You know, our finished product.
Yes, it absolutely does.
Yep.
We would love to someday get into Wine Spectator magazine.
Put it out in the atmosphere. Really I like it. We're putting it out there. I love it. I love it.
We're building it. Wine Enthusiast, Food and Wine,
There it is.
So hopefully, you know, I know Spectator is more of a lifestyle magazine.
Yes, but that's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
And Bill reads all the Spectator magazines.
I would love that as well. If you're out there listening, Wine Spectator, we would love that.
Have that interview.
Oh my goodness. Listen, I want to thank you all so much for sitting down with me today. A couple things I want to mention housekeeping wise. So William Heritage Winery actually has 2 tasting rooms. The original tasting room and property are located in Mullica Hill, right off of 322. And there is a second location in Haddonfield, New Jersey. So 2 places to enjoy fabulous wine, fabulous people. I will tell you that Mullica Hill also has a small kitchen, so there's quite a delicious menu. All of the food is made right there and pairs beautifully with any wine that you may like. Starting in June, the very first Thursday in Mullica Hill kicks off Vino and Vibes, and it's a vibe, y'all. It's great. It's food trucks. It's live music. It's 6 to 9 p.m. When you watch this episode, below in the description, you're going to see the website. Keep an eye on that. Reservations will open for that in May. In Haddonfield, they've already kicked off live music on Thursdays, I think starting at 6 p.m. Live music there at Haddonfield. Really great music, really great wine. But again, you'll be able to see that. You'll also see their tags for their social media accounts. I encourage you to follow them. There's always something great happening at both locations. And then there's always just some really funny stuff out there too to check out. So it's good stuff. So definitely check that website out. If you live in a location, maybe you're not near New Jersey, it's not a short drive for you. If you'd like to order wine and your state allows that, the states that they're able to ship to are included on their website. So check that out. Get the wine in your area. Come visit. You know, it's a good time for sure. Both locations are open 12 to 9, Monday through Saturday, and Sunday 12 to 6. So you've definitely, and the weather's turning so beautiful. There's over 110 tables outside at Mullica Hill for you to just relax. And Vino and Vibes, I didn't mention this. Great wine, great music, great food, but there's nothing like watching the sunset in the vineyard. It's so beautiful. I could talk all day. Yeah.
We have a wonderful staff.
Yeah, and a wonderful staff. We'll talk more about that later. Okay, listen, y'all, listen. I could go on all day, but it's time for May's message. And you all know that if you've been watching Portia's Place, I really like to always end each episode with just some words, some encouraging words. And I think today's theme with May's message is going to be the importance of great partnership. I think that you have heard throughout this episode the importance, whether it's your spouse, another family member, friends, or just a business associate. But you need people in your life, and you need to surround yourself with people that, while they may not necessarily see your vision, they're willing to support your vision and be all in with you on that vision. I think that you hear a lot of people say sometimes that teamwork makes the dream work, right? But I also think that's only important. It's also important that you're on the right team. So you've got to have those right people there with you for that journey, and just making sure that you're on that right team. All of my grandmothers, used to say, you're known by the company you keep. So if you're a hard worker, surround yourself with other hard workers, and you will see your dreams truly come true. So thank you both so much. Cheers to this 2020 vintage Brut, and cheers to you both. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us at Portia's Place. Never wine alone.